I'm Judith. I'm 80 years old. I'm a Canadian. I think by the time you see this, I'll be over 80. I'll have had another birthday. And then I'm going to start just saying I'm over 80. We'll have to go through it all every year if this goes on for years. So today I want to talk about the force of habits. As you know, if you've seen this channel before, um, I just have some stuff that I've learned in my 80 some years that I want to pass on to other people in the hope that it will be helpful. And most of that is about how to create a happy and successful and fulfilling life. And there are lots and lots of things that I found that I have to do in order to do that. And I've succeeded. I have created a happy and successful life. I had a lot of advantages, I admit, and a lot of privileges, but I have worked very hard at it as well. And I have created a very happy and successful, by my terms, successful life. Failed at lots of stuff too along the way. No life it goes perfectly smoothly all the time. So today I'm going to talk about the force of habits and how habits are a force in our life and how they can be used for good or for ill, either to keep us stuck or keep us in dysfunctional patterns, or how they can help us to create and build that happy life that we really want for ourselves. So let me start by talking about the force, why I call it the force of habits. You've all heard the expression, oh, I did that out of force of habit. And in fact, habit is a very strong force. I'll give you some examples. I go to line dance once a week, and a couple of times a week I go to a cardio class at a senior center. And recently, I don't know, I set off in the morning to go to line dance, and I was driving along, and I found myself at the senior center because I wasn't really paying attention to where I was going. And I go to the senior center twice a week, and I only go to line dance once a week. And force of habit, I just took the route to the senior center instead of to the line dance. So then I had to scurry and quickly go back. Habit can be good and can keep us on the right track. And habit can also, force of habit can keep us doing bad things or the wrong thing, in some cases, like this example. I talked in a video, I think it was episode 7, about affirmations. And I like to number the episodes because it's easier for me to refer to them. Maybe easier for you to find them if you want to. In episode 7, I talked about affirmations and the power of affirmations. And I talked about using an affirmation to quit smoking back when I was 30 years old, back in 1975. And in those days, one could smoke anywhere. You could smoke at your desk in the office. You could smoke in your car. Like you just smoked anywhere. You could smoke in public. You could smoke in restaurants. It wasn't until a few years later that it started becoming more taboo to smoke in public or even in your home because you didn't want to contaminate things for children and so on. My dad smoked all his life. He always smoked in the house. Nobody really knew that it was as dangerous as it turned out to be. And certainly, even though there was research about it, no one was publicizing it much in 1970 or 75 or in 1960s when I started smoking. So, in those days when I was smoking, and then I quit and I was using these affirmations, but I would be driving to work in the morning and I would get a red light and my hand would automatically go out to feel for the cigarette pack, which was usually on the passenger seat, to light a cigarette, because in those few moments of boredom while waiting for the red light, I would light a cigarette normally. And that went on for months. The same thing would happen at work. I would be sitting at my desk working, and there was an ashtray on my desk. I didn't remove it, but I would find my hand just reaching out, blindly patting, looking for the cigarette pack so that I could light a cigarette. Of course, in the days that I smoked, I sometimes did that and found myself with 2 cigarettes that were lit and in the ashtray. But there we go. And so that's just force of habit, and it becomes very hard to overcome those. Those are the sorts of things that can send you back to smoking, and it's amazing how strong those patterns become. Again, with smoking, I don't remember how long I had been a non-smoker for, but it was years. It was, I would think, somewhere between 2 and 5 years since I had smoked a cigarette. So I was pretty well established. I was not thinking about smoking. I was always so grateful once I quit. I was so grateful that I had quit. that I didn't really want to go back to it, aside from one or two instances that I may talk about in the future, when I was really, really tempted. But but I was at a party, I remember, and a party in somebody's home, and we were sitting around a table, a coffee table, and people were smoking, and there was a pack. I smoked number 7 cigarettes. I learned later that that was because they didn't advertise, and I hated cigarette advertising, or I hated being influenced by any kind of advertising. And number 7 cigarettes were designed especially for people who hated advertising. So I was trapped by the ad biggie business, as my husband used to call it. He was in that business, not with cigarettes, but with other things. Um, so um, we were sitting around, and I had not smoked for several years, and a pack of number 7s was sitting on the table. It was my brand. And my hand, I didn't even have a conscious thought about cigarette smoking. I was not thinking about it. I was just chatting away, and my hand went out to grab that cigarette pack and grab a cigarette. I was shocked. I was really shocked. And I didn't take the cigarette and I didn't smoke it. But to recognize that habit had formed a neural activity in my brain, so that my eye saw a number 7 cigarette pack and my hand reached for it, even years later. And that's force of habit. So, so here we are, and if you want to have like good habits, and you want to get rid of some bad habits, then how do you do it? How do you manage it? And for those of us like me who have ADD or ADHD, it's even harder. I think it's even harder. It's hard for most people to break a bad habit, or and maybe even to establish good habits. I know that for me, it is infinitely hard. And I spent most of my adult life fighting to create good habits, and mostly failing. I tried to create good eating habits, fail. I tried to create good exercise habits, fail. I tried to create, all good sleep habits, fail. And then we got, cell phones, and I can scroll endlessly in the middle of the night, and that makes it even harder. So then, not scrolling, not being addicted to Facebook, not looking at my phone 25 times a day, whatever, not wasting time doing it, not playing endless games on my phone, or endless games of solitaire, or whatever the habit is that either wastes your time or actually causes you harm. And trying to break those habits, but also trying to establish good habits like exercise and good sleep patterns and good eating patterns and so on, can be really, really, really difficult. And they used to say that it took 21 days to establish a habit. No, I can tell you, it can take me 21 months. It takes me years sometimes to establish a habit and have it really be habitual, so that there is a force to the habit, so that I don't have to just consciously remember to do it every day. Because the point about habit is that it's something that you can do without even thinking about it, really. For instance, I get up in the morning, and after I'm in the bathroom for a few minutes, I brush my teeth before I leave that bathroom. And before I go to bed at night, I brush my teeth again. And I don't even think about that. It's just something I've done for years and years and years. I don't always do it after meals. In fact, I rarely do it right after meals these days, unless there's some taste in my mouth I really want to get rid of or something. And I'll talk in a moment about what else I do with my teeth and dental habits. But I don't even have to think about brushing my teeth in those instances. I just use an ordinary toothbrush, nothing fancy, no electric toothbrush, and I just brush my teeth because I like how it makes my mouth feel when I first get up in the morning and just before I go to bed at night. And so on with habits that become almost subconscious, almost unconscious. You don't have to think about them, you just do them. And if they're a good habit, that's a really good thing. And if they're a bad habit, that makes it tougher. So so for me, it is very, very easy to establish a good habit. I think it's pretty easy mostly to establish a good habit. I mean, a bad habit. I can establish those really fast. It just takes a few days, because usually bad habits are kind of pleasurable in some ways, eating donuts or something, something that you really enjoy, and that are not really good for your health. That's easy. The one bad habit I worked really hard, interesting enough, to establish was smoking, because the first I think I mentioned in that video on affirmations that I started smoking after my first boyfriend in high school. I had three. I live with a third one now, but I had three. The the first steady boyfriend I had, and we went steady for 2 years, and I was heartbroken when he broke up with me, and and I started smoking and I cut my hair. My hair was quite long then, as it is now, and I cut it. Um, so I started smoking and I got dizzy and felt ill to my stomach, and I didn't like the taste of it at all. And it really affected me physically. I didn't feel well at all when I smoked. And I thought, this doesn't happen to anybody else. Everybody else can smoke without any issues. And I just dogged persistence. I kept on trying and I kept on smoking for about 3 or 4 weeks until it stopped having bad effects and I liked it. And then, of course, I was addicted to it. So uh, I'm an earnest striver, someone with dogged persistence. And in that case, that did not serve me well. But most of the time, I can develop a bad habit really easily. Um, in later years, since I've retired, for instance, we'll talk about alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic, but I had developed the habit of drinking alcohol on pretty much a daily basis because when I was working, I would only drink alcohol on weekend evenings, like Friday night, Saturday night. Or if I was working 4 days a week, Thursday night, and I had Fridays off, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Well, it got really easy then when I retired because every day is a retirement day, every day is a holiday, every night's Friday night, and every day is Saturday when you're retired. And so I would have a drink every night. And I enjoyed it. I mean, it'd be a glass of wine or something, and then it became 2 glasses of wine, and then a pastis and 2 glasses of wine. Never never, binge drinking, never enormous, well, maybe once in a while, a whole bottle of wine if I had friends over or something, but very rarely. Don't like the feeling of getting high, don't like the feeling of feeling a little woozy from the booze. And I would drink those drinks over a whole bunch of hours, like from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 11 o'clock at night. So I was drinking slowly. But um, I've stopped that now, and I drink only occasionally, only on social occasions. And the occasional time I'll have one drink alone, and that's mostly for health reasons, just because I was overweight and I'm working at getting rid of that condition, and I have metabolic syndrome, and it's not good for blood sugars and insulin and insulin resistance and all the things that cause metabolic syndrome. Sorry, and so I just I've stopped, and it wasn't any big deal to stop. Um, but I had to get over the habit of having it. So now I have green tea in the evenings because I have a habit of sipping. And so I decided rather than trying to quit that habit, I would just sip something different. So now from the time I finish dinner, I sip green tea. And that way I don't have any milk in it or anything. I'm sort of doing the intermittent fasting, nighttime fasting, which is also good for blood sugar. And I don't have to, so, but that happened fairly easily, and I guess I was motivated to do it. Do I still think every so often, oh, it'd be really nice to have a pastis? I lived in France for a while. I like pastis, if you know what that is, Pernod or Ricard with the water, and I put some ice in it, or a glass of wine. But it's usually pretty easy to resist. So easy usually to start bad habits, to fall into them. Scrolling endlessly on my telephone in the middle of the night's another one that I try to stop. Um, Not so easy to create good habits. I find that creating good habits takes me a while. I really have to work at it. And I'll talk about a couple of those. Um, so, teeth. Teeth. I talked about brushing my teeth. So, I, for years and years and years, was a determined non flosser. I was not about to floss my teeth. I didn't like the feeling of it. I didn't like the way my knuckles got covered in saliva. I didn't like the feel of the stuff. I didn't like it when they did it, when they cleaned my teeth. I didn't like when she did it. The dental hygienist did it. I just did not like flossing. I would use a water pick intermittently. I would use an electric toothbrush, but flossing, no, not going to do that. And then I had a whole bunch of dental work a few years ago, about, gosh, it must be 10 years ago now, 9 or 10 years ago. But so when I was 18, I was learning to drive my father's standard car, and I crashed it into a tree and knocked out my front teeth. And then over the years, I had a bridge. First, they took out the two front teeth and they made a bridge using four teeth. And ultimately, they used two teeth on either side. So I had a six-tooth bridge. Then another tooth came out here, so I had another tooth out. And so these teeth are just fastened in permanently, and they are not my real teeth. But eventually, after each bridge would last maybe 20 years, which was pretty good, and then it would have to be taken out. So by the time we got up to the 60-year mark, or getting close to that, the teeth underneath had also rotted, and then I had to have a huge amount of work a few years ago. I had to have bone grafts and then implants put in, and then the false teeth put on, and um, it was a lot of money, and I had some insurance, but it was still, I don't know, I think it was 20,000 Canadian or something. I ended up paying for that, and so I I got pretty serious about taking care of my teeth after that, and so I decided that I would actually start flossing my teeth. And I worked out a dental routine where I said, okay, I'm going to use once a day, I'm going to use the electric toothbrush. I'm going to floss my teeth. I'm going to water pick using water with some mouthwash in it because it tastes better that way. I like water picking actually. And then it turned out a little later I started taking a medication which gives me dry mouth. And so now I also have a swig of a xylitol mouthwash after that just to keep my mouth moist because the regular mouthwash that I use in the water pick dries it out. Well, that's quite a big thing, and the flossing part was the part I hated. But I did a couple of things that I think were right about that. One was I was very motivated because of the money it had cost me, not to have anything go wrong with my teeth. Secondly, I have a friend, Lizzie, who lives in Birmingham in England, and we travel together occasionally. And I've known her for a long time, 30 years or so, I guess. And we met in France, ultimately, originally. But anyway, she too is a widow, and we've traveled together. And um, she was telling me on one of our trips how much she hated flossing, and she flosses her teeth I think she gives herself Sundays off, one day off a week from flossing, and she hates it every day. She just hates doing it, but she does it. And I thought, well, if Lizzie can do that, I can do that. So the model of someone else hating it but doing it helped. And the other thing I did was I decided not to do it perfectly. My dentist says I should be doing that after dinner at night. And I know myself, and after dinner at night, I'm not doing much of anything, frankly. I'm kind of done for the day. And I'm tired, and I don't want to get up and do things. My willpower is at its very lowest ebb. So I do it after breakfast. If for some reason I have to go out, like when I go to exercise classes first thing in the morning and I don't get it done because I don't have time, I do it after lunch. Um, so and the other thing is the electric toothbrush. If you use an electric toothbrush, you know they usually have a timer on them that goes like for 2 minutes. I can't stand being there for 2 minutes. It's too long. I get antsy and impatient. Maybe that's the ADHD. So I just go until I can't stand it any longer, and I try to give my teeth a good once over, and I shut it off. I think that's better than nothing. And the same thing with the water pick. I don't fill the whole container of the water pick. It's a kind of countertop one and has quite a lot of water, room for a lot of water, and I don't fill it. And if I get tired of water picking before the water's all gone, I just stop and I empty out the water, So I do as much as I can feel I can do. And I also don't manage always to do it every day. I would say I do it 80-90% of the time. And how I continue to do that is, let's see. I put it on, I have a habit tracker. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but I have a habit tracker that I do every evening. I also, in episode 4, I think, I talked about my daily task list, and I also write down dental on the side in my to-do list for the day. I write down 4 or 5 of the key habits that I'm really working on establishing, and that reminds me, because during the day I'll go, look, and I'll say, oh gosh, I didn't do that yet. So there are a few key habits that I'm trying to establish that I do that with. So anyway, here's my habit tracker. Now, This is just one I bought from Amazon. It's likely from the US. And it says every day is a chance to be better. I like it because it's good for a couple of years. It's undated. It just has, let me show you. It has blank pages, and they're all different colors, which pleases me. I like having different colors. That just gives me a little bit of joy. And it has several sections. So up here, you fill in the month, and then there's room for about 12 habits here, daily habits. And then you can fill in the weeks along here, and there's room for 4 or 5 weekly habits, and then room for some monthly habits. And so I do that. I fill that out each month, and that gives me a chance to swap out habits again. You know, sometimes I say, well, I'm not doing this habit or that habit, and so I decided I'm not going to even try for a while. I'll just give up on that. So I filled it out for April. This is March. I didn't want you to see personal information that I have on my habit tracker, so I filled it out for March. But so here's all I've done. Sorry, for April. So I've just put in the days of the week up here, and then I do this in green. It's always in green, not because this page is green. That's accidental, but I do it in green because green means health to me, and these are all health habits. And then down here, just in black, in terms of keeping things in order, I've got that I should weigh myself once a week, clear phone, my emails from my phone, clear laptop emails, purge and file photos on my phone, and delete documents in my laptop. I'm not very good at doing this. And then over here, I've got weekly. I do monthly. I buy greeting cards that I need to, or set up e-cards for people. I do filing in an accounting system. I do my account reconciliation in an accounting system, and then I file those statements. Receipts. Oh, my partner and I divvy up the household expenses. So he writes down what he's spent on us, and I write down what I've spent on us, and then we figure out, you know, who owes who money for the last month. I've got a bunch of laptop photos on my laptop that I need to name, so they don't just say image number 2497, and file in like little files, and I should do that every month, and I don't. And uploading photos from my phone to my laptop is another task I often don't get to, but I try, and it's there. So it just gives you an idea. Most of these are physical habits, things like sleeping 7 hours. Did I take my blood pressure? Did I do the dental routine? Did I take some supplements, Metamucil and collagen? Did I drink more than 8 cups of water? You know, and habits can be anything. They can be spiritual habits. Did I do prayer and meditation? They can be emotional habits. Did I, you know, about relationships? Like, did I phone my mom this week? You know, if you're lucky enough to have your mother around, that sort of thing. That can be, yeah, about relationships. Did I spend some time with my wife and children, or with my kids, you know, just having fun? Whatever habits you're trying to establish on a regular basis. Did we have a family dinner at least once this week? I mean, the number of habits you could be doing is infinite. And mine, as it happens, are mostly about my health, because health, as I've mentioned elsewhere, seems to be my major work, my major career move these days, and my major thing to spend time on. With that, this one particular habit tracker, you get a handy little example, and you get instructions, which is very handy, and how many habits should you track, and how to use a habit calendar. It only takes a minute or two. It takes me less than 5 minutes, likely, to fill it out for the month, and set up things for the month, and then it takes me a minute or two in the day, and it does sometimes remind me of things I haven't done, and I can then go and do them, or I say, oh, I'm not going to do them today. But it gives me a good sense of how I'm doing on those habits. And as I say, I have some of them, the ones that I'm really working on, I have on my daily to-do list as well. One of the habits that I'm working on is doing 15 minutes or so, 10 to 20 minutes of exercise in the mornings before breakfast. And I'm doing that because it's a good thing for my blood sugar, not because I love getting up. In fact, I get up in the morning and it's the last thing I want to do. I And once in a while I skip it, and once in a while I wake up too late and I have to go out and I don't have time to do it. But really, I mean, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, how bad can it be, you know? And I put on, I have DVDs by someone named Leslie Sanson. They're walking DVDs where you kind of walk in time to the music and you kick and you, I don't know, fling your legs about a bit and you step to the side and lift your knees up, you know, do and move your arms around and stuff. And that 10 minutes or 15 minutes doesn't get my heart rate up very high. It maybe goes up into just a, I mean, it's not very high. It would be the equivalent to having a little stroll down the block. But the weather in Canada in the winter is not good enough, and I don't want to leap into my clothes right away. And so that's what I do. I just go. So habits. Yeah. So working really hard at creating good habits is very important. And it actually, if you're really stuck, I think I'll talk about this in another video because this one's getting long. But if you're really stuck, then in your life and you're not really able to do very much, then starting out with a habit, with just one simple habit can really help. If your house is always messy, I know of someone called Fly Lady on the web who helps people keep their homes in order, and she had a really messy house, and she started by just cleaning her kitchen sink every single night so that before she went to bed the kitchen sink was clean and polished and all clear of dishes. And from that she gradually expanded into other things. I've been taking a health program recently, again, for blood sugar, and they say do some exercise every day. Daily exercise, doesn't matter if it's only 5 minutes. Do it every day. Consistency is the really important thing. So to start really small, and that's what happens with this fasting exercise. I mean, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. How hard can it be? You know, that 10 or 15 minutes is going to go by anyway. I may as well be walking around in the living room for a few minutes, and then it's done for the day. And then I go on to do the other exercise that I'm doing. Making my bed is one thing that I think is really important. I want to talk sometime about that. About that. I suggested that to my granddaughter once in her 20s, and she just rejected that absolutely and said she was never going to have the energy to make her bed in her whole life. That was just a waste of time. And each one to themselves, I guess. I think there's a reason why Army recruits are taught to make their beds, and so maybe call me old-fashioned, but I think making a bed is a really important habit to have. But again, as always with these things, take what you like and leave the rest. I will just offer one word of advice in terms of where you can learn more about habits and how they're created and how to create them. And that is a really, really good book. It's called Atomic Habits by a man named James Clear. And the subtitle, it says, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. It's a very famous book. I have it on audio, so I can't show you the actual book. I have an audio version. I listen to it in the gym when I'm on the treadmill, and I find it very helpful. He has a website. There are likely videos. A really good way to learn habits, and it's a very good way to start to build a life that where honestly the force of your habits can make you very happy and help keep your life orderly and happy and free of messes and full of good things, and it can also help you get rid of all the bad habits. So there's my talk on habits. I hope it's helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'd love to see comments because I'd love to get to know some of you. My videos are starting to get some views now, and so subscribe. Judith, Jam Today, Judith's POV, and until then, be a good person. Keep trying to do the things that will make you happy and find joy in every day. And my wish for you is that you have a happy and fulfilling and successful life. And that's all I'm here to do, is maybe help you all in that way. So take care, and until the next one.